Lesson 6.6, we are studying about simple and compound interest. The essential question for the lesson is, what is the difference between simple interest? What is the difference between simple interest amount and the total amount? So let's go ahead and look right here. There's pieces to this, so we need to know them as terms of the simple interest puzzle. And they're right here. The terms are interest, and the symbol for interest is a capital I. The symbol for principal is a capital P. The symbol for rate is a capital R. And the symbol for time is a capital T. Now, what is interest? Let's take a look. It's the amount of money earned or paid when lending or borrowing. Now, lending means you're giving somebody a loan, or borrowing means you're accepting a loan. All right, so let's look at principal right now. Principal is the capital P. What is it? It's the amount of money invested, like you're lending it to someone. When you lend money to someone, they're going to pay it back with interest, or borrowed if you're receiving a loan. The rate is a capital R, and that is the annual. Annual means yearly. Percentage. Rate written in decimal form. Remember how to do that? You take your percentage and divide it by 100 to make it into a decimal. And finally, the time is T, and it's the number of complete years. Now, let's underline the word complete, because they have to be complete. If, however, make a little star on this one. This is a little asterisk thing here. If a partial year, such as 8 months, well, how do you do that? Well, then you got to write it as a fraction. And you can see I have an example here. There are 12 months in a year, so 8/12 of the year. So write it like that. That's now simplified to 2/3 a year. So you would use 2/3 if it's a partial year. All right, so those are the pieces of the puzzle. And what is the formula for simple interest? The formula is, simple interest is P times R times T. It's that easy. So interest is equal to PRT. Now, how do we use it? We're supposed to be using the substitution property when replacing variables with numbers. And so you would set something up like this over here, where this would be the I, this would be the P, the R, and the T. Now, we have two examples here before you're going to pause the video and try the practice ones out. So let's take a look at example number 1. SI, that just means simple interest. So find the simple interest of this number here, $1,000 at 8% for 3 years. Now, this $1,000 is your principal. It's the money, it's what you're starting with. The percent sign is a dead giveaway. It's the R. And the 3 years is T, and it's already in the complete years, so that's good. So all you have to do is set up this. I is equal to the P times the R times the T. So the P is $1,000. The interest rate is 8%, so we need to change that into a decimal by dividing it by 100, and that's going to give you 8/100ths, and then 3 years. And then it's as simple as just picking up your calculator and multiplying all of those out. 1,000 times 8/100ths times 3. So on my screen, I have interest is equal to $24. Well, that's not quite right. In my calculator, I didn't put 1,000, I put 100. So the actual answer is $240. So make sure you type it in correctly so you get the right answers. So that's a real simple one. There's not much to change there. Let's look at number 2. And we're still finding the SI, the simple interest of $800, which is our principal, our percent, which is our rate, and our 5 months, which is time. But the problem with our time is not in years. So we need to change 5 months into years. So to do that, we're going to list it as 5/12 of a year. We can't simplify that any longer or anymore, so we're going to just start. Interest, oops, not that. Try that again. Interest is equal to principal times rate times time. Our principal here is $800. Our rate is a percent, so we need to divide it by 100, and we get 15 thousandths. In 5 months, we'll list it as a fraction, 5/12. Now we have a fraction involved, so we're going to make all the other ones fractions just to make it simple. We're going to multiply all the top numbers together, starting with 800 times 15 thousandths times 5, and we get 60 on top. And on the bottom, we get 1 times 1 times 12, which is 12. And all we have to do is 60 divided by 12, and we get 5. And that's the interest, $5. So there you have your 2 examples. And now you're going to pause the video and work through numbers 3, 4, 5, and 6. Now, if you're having struggles with it, you can come back and you can see how to do it, but I prefer you to try them on your own to see if you get the right answers. Pause the video now. All right, welcome back. Look at numbers 3, 4, 5, and 6 and see if you got the right answers. There's one note I do want to make here. Over here, this is 2 months, so I made it into 2/12 and reduce that down to 1/6 and use 1/6. Here was 3.5 years. I know as a decimal, that's exactly 3 5/10, so I use that there. And then finally over here, when you have an opportunity to round, which we didn't here, but you need to check, always round to the penny spot. All right, let's go down here and look why simple interest is important. All right, so eventually you're going to get your first car. Well, the first car ever made was called the Motor Wagon in 1886 by Carl Benz. Recognize that name? Mercedes-Benz? Yep, Benz and Mr. Mercedes got together and made a car company later on. But Carl Benz made this car, and that was noted as the very first car. Then, what was the first car mass produced? It was called the Model T in 1908 by Henry Ford. So you probably recognize this one right here. All right, let's take a look at your first car. Car loans are most often given with simple interest. A good used car may be around $10,000. Now, when we say around $10,000, you might find one for 8 or 6 or 4 or cheaper. Maybe you might find one for more. But $10,000 would be a good amount to get a really nice used car. So it says you have $2,000 in your savings account. That's a good thing. You've been saving. You haven't been spending your money on Dutch Bros or Starbucks or any other pieces of chocolate. So that's good. Now you're going to use that savings account for a down payment. That means you're going to pay off some of that $10,000. You're going to pay off $2,000 of it right now. So the dealer offers a loan for $8,000 because you used your $2,000 and paid for $2,000 of the $10,000. So you need a loan. And the loan you're getting from the dealer is $8,000 at 5% for 5 years. Well, what's the principal? What's the principal on the loan? It is $8,000. What's the rate? It's 5%. And what's the time? It's for 5 years. Now, as an extra, how many months is that? 5 times 12 is 60 months. We're going to be using that later on. All right, let's take a look at number 7. How much interest will be paid for the loan? All right, so let's figure that out. I is equal to P times R times T. P is $8,000. That's the loan that you're taking on. The rate is 5/100 as a decimal, and the time is 5. So then you put that in your calculator. 8,000 times 5/100 times 5 is $2,000. Now that's just an interest. That's not even a piece of the car. That's what you got to pay back for taking on a loan. All right, so let's take a look at number 8. What will be the total amount spent on the car? Well, let's think. You are buying a $10,000 car. So let's write down $10,000 cars. And what was that 10,000? That 10,000 was your $2,000 of savings plus the $8,000 loan. Well, what else is included on the total amount spent? Right over here, don't forget about it, your interest. So you have to add your interest to your original car price. So 10,000 plus 2,000 is $12,000. So you might be thinking, oh, that $10,000 is a bit of money, but in the end result, you will have paid $12,000 for that $10,000 car. And that's what's happening when you take loans. Number 9, what will your monthly payment be? Well, how much are you borrowing and how much do you got to pay back in interest? The 2,000, this one right here, the 2,000 plus 8,000. So this is the interest plus the loan. The loan was for $8,000. I should put P here, the principal. And so you take those, add them together, and divide it by 60. So that's going to be 10,000 divided by 60. So 10,000 divided by 60. And our answer is 166. And I'm going to round what I see on the screen. So every month for the next 60 months, you'll pay $166.67, regardless if you have a job or not. So you got to get prepared. Now, how can you avoid all this amount? Well, you can be smart. Being smart is being what? Patient. Build your savings and not overspend on a car. You'll find many people overspend on a car. They want the really nice one. All cars get you from one place to another. So you can get the luxurious one and you can spend a lot more money on it, which will be more interest. But the idea is you don't want to get into debt. So make wise decisions. All right, the second page. We're talking about compound interest here. Compounded interest adds the interest from the first term to the balance, then adds the second term of interest and continues to repeat itself. It's just the same as the front part of the paper. It's 1,000, your 12% for 3 years. These are all marked as the same thing. This is your principal, this is your rate, and this is your time. Now there are 2 methods to do this, the long method and the short method. Before we do the short method, I want to show you how painful the long method is. But the long method is kind of very easy to understand. So take notes here. First of all, find interest in the first year. How many years are we doing? Only 1. So the interest for the first year is the principal times the rate times the first year, only 1 year's worth. So we're going to do 1,000 times 1,200 times 1, and that is equal to $120. That's of interest. All right, so what do you do with this? You go to the next one. Add the interest to the balance. What's the balance? The balance is this. So 1,000 plus 120, that's what we'll do. 1,000 plus 120 is 1,120. That's your new amount in your bank account. All right, so now you go to the second year. You bring your new balance down in, you find your interest off your new balance. That's what compounding is. So interest is equal to the principal, the new principal, times your rate of 12% times another year, the second year, which is also another 1 year. So you multiply all of those. And you get 134.4. There's a number missing, so we add a little 0 for the penny spot. Here's your new interest on your second year. It's a little bit more than the first. It was 120, now it went up higher because your balance is increasing. Okay, add new interest to the balance. Let's add this to your old balance of 1,120 plus 134.40. So our new amount is $1,254.40. Okay, we just repeat the same process again. We take the new balance, we find the interest on it. So our new balance is $1,254.40 times our interest rate for another third year. So another year. So we multiply those. And we get 150 and 528. Okay. Because we're going in the thousands place, we have to look here. That 8 props that 2 up to a 53 cents. All right, so now we add this new interest to the new balance, and our new balance was $1,254.40 plus $150.53. Add those together. And our answer is $1,404.93. That's what you would have at the end of 3 years. Now, what's different about compounding? Well, right here. You compound each year and you add it to the balance. So here was your interest, here is your interest, and here is your, over here, here's your interest. You can see the interest is going up and up and up. That's a good thing. All right, now, that's only for 3 years. Let's find out the short method for 3 years. Here's how it works. All right, so start here. Compound interest, CI, is equal to the principal. So we're going to use parentheses there. And we're going to change this parenthesis to a bracket. We're going to change this 100%. We're going to change it. We're just put 100% plus the rate. We're going to leave it as a percent for now. And then, you know, I wish I wouldn't have done that. Let me go back here. I wish I would have put parentheses right here and then put parentheses up here for the T. That's what I was doing, just substitution property. All right, now we're going to put our P, our R, and our T in. So our P is $1,000. Our R is 12%. And our time in years is 3. So you put a 3 up here as an exponent. All right, now we're set to do the math. And this is taking us back to the first semester. It's GEMS all over again. Do your grouping symbols first. There's nothing to do in the thousands, so you go to the bracket here. And inside the bracket, 100% plus 12% is 112%. All right, now to do math, we can't have a percent, so we need to change our percent into a decimal by dividing it by 100. So that's going to give us 1.12. All right. Let me fix this up right here. All right, so now for gems, we're going to do exponents next. And we have a 3 right here. And that just means that this bracket will be multiplied to itself 3 times. But before we start that, let's talk about calculators. Some of you guys have the Texas Instrument calculator, and there's a button probably in the middle left-hand side that looks something like this. Do you see it? It's the caret. Some of you guys might have other brands, and you can see buttons that possibly look like this. I see here an X and then a little box right there. That's the exponent sign too. You get to fill in the box up here. And on other calculators, there might be other type pieces that you can do. If you have a calculator that it has neither of these and it's scientific and you can't find it, you could look on Google and see how to use it for exponents, or you can even come and ask me. All right. Actually, classmates would probably be able to help you too. All right, so let's take a look. I am not going to enter all of these in my calculator. It'll just take forever. So I'm going to use my caret button. So I'll type in my calculator as 1 and 12/100ths. I'll use the caret. It appears on my screen. And then I type in an exponent of 3. I hit equals. And on my screen, I get 1.404928. Now I want to leave that on the screen because I want to multiply it by 1,000. And effectively, the 1,000 is just going to move the decimal point over 1, 2, 3 times. So you can see that the answer is 928. So we're going to look to round this. That 8 makes this go to a 3. And there you have it. A much quicker way. Now, it doesn't seem like a lot quicker because there's a lot of writing, but if you learn how to use your calculator just right and not erase your answers, but include your answers in the next screen, then you can get them done pretty quick. All right, now that we've learned how to use that short method, let's go down here, answer these ones. What is the balance in the account now? Well, we can see either way is going to get you to $1,404.93. Are you ready to invest your money you've saved? Well, you put in $1,000 and you made $404.93. That's not bad in 3 years. It's better than spending it. Let's take a look down here. This is going to get wild pretty quick, and some of you guys are going to be like, whoa, I want to invest my money today. All right, so this is your principal, this is your rate, and this is your time. And you can see that we're compounding all the way across the board, but there's these different words. We're compounding yearly, then we're compounding quarterly, and then monthly, and then weekly. It's getting more aggressive as we move down the chart. Let's do the first one. We're going to use the short method. So we're going to do $100, and then we're going to do 100%. Well, what's 100% as a decimal? You divide it by 100, and it is 1. So that's 1 plus, and 5% as a decimal is 0.05, and our exponent is 4. All right, so we're looking at 100, 1.05 to the 4th. See how simple this is? So on your calculators, you put in 1.05 carats to the 4th power. And on my screen, I get 1.21550.625. And I'm going to multiply that by 100, which just moves the decimal point over 2 times. And so my answer is 121.55. And I won't have to round it all because the next spot here would be the 0. So after 4 years at 5%, $100 is now going to give me $121 $1.55. Doesn't seem like a big deal. Let's do quarterly. What does quarterly mean? How many quarters are in a year? There are 4. So if you have 4 years with 4 quarters in each year, 4 times 4 is 16. So you're going to be compounding your money 16 times. So let's start. 100. Let's get crafty here. 1.05. We know that's going to happen because it's the same numbers every time. To the 16th power. All right, go to your calculator. You see how you want to do the long one? You'd have to do the problem 16 different times. So 1.05 caret for the exponent, 16th power, and on my screen I get 2.182874588. I'll multiply that by 100, which is going to send my decimal point twice. All right, now things are starting to look good. I'll stop there. I will round my 8 on the screen to a 9. So I've now made in 4 years, with my $100, I've doubled it in 4 years. I now have $218.87. Or sorry, 29 cents. All right, let's go on to monthly. Well, how many months are in a year? There are 12. Well, we have 4 years of months, so 4 times 12 is 48. All right, 100 times 1.05 to the 48th power. Aren't you glad you got a quick way to do this? 1.05 times, nope, not times, start over. 1.05 exponent, the carets, to the 48th degree. And look at that. On my screen, I have 10.40126.965. I'm going to multiply that by 100. That's going to send it over twice. And look how much money I have after 4 years. Round, shift that 2 to a 3. There it is. My $100 in 4 years grew 10 times larger. What's going to happen when we do this next one? Well, how many weeks are in a year? There are 52. So there's 4 years of that. So 4 times 52 is 208. What's going to happen now? 100 with an exponent of 208. Aren't you glad you got a shortcut way? So 1.05 times, oh, I did it again. 1.05 exponent, the caret, 208. My screen has 25,549 and 0.1766. I'm going to multiply that by 100, which sends my decimal point twice. And now I write down the new answer. And take a look at that. $2,554,901, and not 76 cents, but 77 cents. Every penny counts. Now, how did you spend that $100 of Christmas? Is it gone already? Save your money and invest it. All right, let's go down here and do these. First name, last name, date, and period. I'm only going to do one of these. It's going to be it's simple interest. So I is equal to 1,100 times 5% at 3 years. Simple interest is simple. Multiplying all these together, and I get $165 of interest. it does say go to the nearest cent. So let's go to that cent. That is the nearest cent, 0, 0. So on the Google form, you're probably going to have to put 0, 0 for your pennies because it does say nearest cent. Okay, so that's how those work. Let's go down to number 7. Find the total amount in each account to the nearest cent if the interest is compounded annually. It's telling you annually. All right, compounded annually. So we know what to do here. We do 600 and then 100%. I'm going to change my 100% into the number 1 anyway. That is a whole. 1 plus 0.05 to the third power. So 600. I'll use my calculator with the exponent and get 1.157625. I'll multiply that by 600. That's not so easy. So it's already on my screen, so times by 600. And I have the answer as $694. And it's a little weird. I need to elevate my 7 because that's a 5 to an 8. Rounding to the nearest cent. So my answer here is $694.58. So that's how you do those. And I'll do one word problem with you. Mariah borrowed $1,200 to buy a new computer system. She paid the simple interest loan off in 24 monthly payments of $56. What was the interest rate on the loan? All right, it's noting simple interest, so do not compound. So here we go. She borrowed this much. That's the principal. To buy a new computer system. She paid the simple interest loan off in 24 months. What's 24 months as in years? That is 2. So 2 goes down here. And our rate, well, it doesn't give us the rate. It's asking for the rate. So we don't know the rate. Well, what do we do here? Well, we do know that she paid the simple interest loan off in 24 monthly payments of $56 each. Let's do some math. 24 times 56 on our calculators. Is 1,344, for that's what the computer cost. Okay. Well, what was the interest then? Well, let's take away what she borrowed of $1,200. And so the interest, we just found it, is $144. So now we can come over here and erase the I, because we know what the I is. We put parentheses. And that is $144. Well, this is just like you're used to back in semester 1. We want to simplify this side. 1,200 times R times 2 is 2,400 R. And then if you want to get rid of the 2,400, you divide it by 2,400. And 144 divided by 2,400 on my screen is R is 0.06. Times it by 100 to make it into a percent. That's the interest rate that she got. So as long as you use the formula from the notes, I is equal to PR, oops, that's not a P. P, that's still not a P. Try it again. PRT. So listen closely in the word problems and see which one they give you. They might give you the I, the P, the R, or the T. One of them will be missing. You'll have to find.